seeing the participant numbers climbing a little bit here. We'll get going because we like to start on time. Thank you for investing some of your time in BroadSky Networks in February. My name is Tom Benson. I'm the VP of Business Development for BroadSky. I am in a lovely Minneapolis, Minnesota, and it is 4 degrees. So if it's warmer where you are than where I am, congratulations. We like to think that 4 degrees makes us tough. Okay, so enough about the weather. Let's talk wireless, and let's talk about in-vehicle network solutions. This is an emerging market. If I put the context on this, a lot of what we talk about is connecting offices, and that's the bread and butter of the channel, and that's the bread and butter of networking. How do we get an SD-WAN in? How do we protect everything that's going to the cloud? How do we make an office environment more productive? And that's great, and it's a fantastic business opportunity, but it is not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is a little more speculative and a little more emerging, but there's a lot of business out there. And the context that we're in here is people are taking their assets into the field. And there's a lot of people who run their businesses not in offices, but they do a lot of business. And so every truck you see, every bus that you see go by, every construction crew that's headed out for a job, etc., all of them are taking hundreds of thousands of dollars to do projects that are worth millions of dollars. And they all need to get to the internet too. So how are we going to do that when we're not sitting in an office in a controlled environment and we're getting out into a much less controlled environment? So there's 2 things you have to bear in mind with that. One, the asset is moving. It may go on site and stay there for 3 to 5 days or maybe a month, but then it picks up and moves again. So signal strength isn't just a matter of finding out what has good signal at this particular address. Signal strength now comes down to how do we guarantee signal when we move, and then how do we guarantee signal when we go to the next job. So that's a next layer of qualification. The next thing we want to think about is that technology we put in the field, is it going to hold up? Putting something in a 71-degree temperature controlled environment that always has clean power is one thing. Putting it on a truck or on a crane or on an oil rig or on something that gets moved around a lot, gets installed and installed, deinstalled over and over and over again, means that you can't use the same gear that you would use when you set it once and put it on a board and walk away. You need something that's, the word is ruggedized. It's a hardier piece of equipment. It can withstand shock. It can take more temperature ranges. It can take more electrical ranges. And so that's the application that you're looking at. And we're going to talk about that in more detail. So that's sort of the context we're in, is businesses that move, internet applications that we need now, but don't need, 5 days from now, but during these 5 days, it's very important to us. And how do we deliver a smooth and reliable signal to those businesses? And then what opportunities exist that would sort of fit those parameters. Okay. So a little bit about BroadSky. We've been at this since 2003. Wireless is all we do. We've had multiple opportunities to expand into businesses that are a sidebar. We've decided not to do that. BroadSky's maniacal focus is delivering quality wireless internet to run your business. And it's not easy to deliver that on a consistent basis anywhere in the country. And so we have a team of engineers, and really the entire company is focused on how do we deliver this with quality? How do we bill it accurately? How do we accurately report on data usage? And then how do we deliver a smooth overall experience to your customer that shows up on one bill, that has one customer support number, that works the same everywhere, predictably. And we've been at it for 17 years. There are other people who do this. I couldn't name one that does it better. I'll say it like that. So if you need it to work, then we're here for you. Just some objective things that sort of bear that out versus me just stating it. We've been on the Inc. 5000 list now 3 years in a row. We will definitely be on it in 2020. You're seeing some hockey stick growth for both BroadSky in this industry because the technology is better, and we're looking at fast internet anywhere in the country. And so as a channel professional looking to add MRC, this is maybe something that hasn't emerged in your mind as being a significant revenue contributor to your business. And I invite you to maybe change that thinking a little bit. there's an enormous amount of money and opportunity that's going into connecting things wirelessly. And we sit at that juncture of delivering that experience to your end user. We didn't list them on here, but it's objective and subjective, but if you talk about the biggest distributors in the channel, just going by the names that we all know, TBI, Intelisys, Telarus, Planet One, TCG, Microcorp, these are the respected names in the channel. They don't endorse vendors, but they certainly don't take on vendors that don't perform. And vendors that don't perform don't stay in their portfolios. We've been at this for 17 years. We're clearly in the portfolio, including delivering the solution, and then honestly, paying commission checks on time every month, because that's part of the overall value. So it's not an endorsement by them, but it's a bar that you have to get over. Another objective thing, I'll point out, we won the Channel Futures Award from MSP in 2019, so that was exciting. There's two companies that are sister companies to BroadSky that are of value here, particularly for installations. TechLink Services, or the Field Installers Network. This is a white glove opportunity to actually take the equipment and install it. If you need hands in the field and you need to deploy 100 sites in a 2-week period and you don't have the manpower for that, TechLink can fill in that gap for you and deliver your solution on a schedule. And then TechLink Solutions, which is an application development company for custom software applications for better visibility, better control, and getting us to tap into Wireless Window, which is our one-site control portal, which is going to be a little outside of scope of this webinar, but it's out there, and talk to your channel manager about what Wireless Window could do for you. So that's a little context on BroadSky. Let's get into the topic of the day. Our agenda today is the mobility market and what's available, what customers would fit into this market. Some examples of that, including retail, healthcare, construction, transportation, and then some of the technology that we'll use to power these applications. And then we'll get into a Q&A session. The Q&A is a lot of times where most of the value resides. As brilliant as I hope to be today, a lot of the really good ideas come out of the Q&A. So I invite you to get your questions ready, and as long as the questions come, we'll answer them. This is where we take it from theory into reality. In the Q&A side. So we're always interested in hearing about specific applications where this might make sense. So the mobility market, it's high growth and they need wireless. And when they're moving, they now want to have that same command and control experience and that same ability to access all of the applications sitting in the cloud that they would have in their office. So how do we do that? And then what technology do we use for that? So this could be transportation companies. Mobile healthcare is a massive opportunity. Mobile retail, including pop-up retail, which is a very large trend on the horizon, where retail customers and retail distributors, are looking to do pop-up events first before they commit to a lease. And so they're trying to take the product to the people versus trying to get the people to the product. So you're seeing a lot of brands show up at festivals, at shows, at art fairs. When they show up, they're trying to get product and sell products, so they need a reliable point of sale system for that. And then they're also trying to create brand awareness and drive more traffic to their website. So they're disintermediating that retail site sitting in a mall, and instead they're picking up and they're moving to where the people are going to be. In that instance, they're spending a lot of money to put on a good show, if you will, and they want to look good. And so some cheap consumer grade air card that plugs into a laptop, that's just not going to cut it. They need something that's going to work all day and help them translate that tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars they've spent to be at that festival, that art fair, that show, into A, selling product, yes, but B, looking like they know what they're doing. And when the internet drops and they can't do anything, they don't look like they know what they're doing. So that's their one lifeline out to the world, is that quality internet connection. And that's what we provide. So mobile healthcare, that's the first one we're going to talk about. People can't get to the doctor. And so there's two markets for this. One, people who don't have time. And companies are actually investing in bringing healthcare to the people. So you're seeing regularly mobile x-ray, mobile mammogram, mobile blood pressure, mobile, et cetera, trucks show up And then people will come out and get their testing done. They'll walk out of their office. They'll go in and they get this done, and then they go back up. It's better for delivering healthcare, and it's also better for overall, employee productivity, because otherwise they don't go to the doctor for 3 years, and that's really not good for a company to have their workforce uncared for. I guess I'll say it like that. So this is a trend that we're seeing of bringing healthcare providers on campus. Now, a healthcare provider obviously needs to bring their entire practice management software with them, and therefore they need to have a reliable, fast internet connection. I just said this, but I'm going to say it again. These junky air cards that you stick into a side of a laptop, that's 2014 technology, and that's not going to cut it. Now you need something fast and that can handle multiple transmissions, that can connect to VPN tunnels, that can still be within all HIPAA requirements. They can't shed their regulatory environment just because they're in a truck. All the regulations came with them. And so we hit all of those marks for both regulatory and performance. So that's one method to focus on that maybe people hadn't thought about, of who's powering all of these different mobile healthcare access units when they go out on site. Then the other flavor of that is community healthcare, is taking healthcare to shut-ins or people who don't have reliable access to transportation or people who are underserved. And so again, they're bringing the same technology to those people so that they can get healthcare on site at community centers, at central locations versus having to get to a hospital or a clinic. There's a large percentage of people who are not able to do that. And so they're bringing that to the people. So either way, those are the two markets where this is happening, and it's happening right now. These are just some of the examples that we've seen. You have dentistry. I'm not sure what First Choice Health Centers are doing. Oh, that was dental again. So dentistry is the other one I didn't mention. There's a lot of mobile dentist things running around out there, and they need 30 to 50 meg download in order to be able to do procedures on time. That requires a fast internet connection, and that's what we do. So another segment that we're seeing emerging is bus companies. People are getting on buses for longer periods of time, and this would kind of break down into two segments: leisure travel, where people have to get on Facebook and have to get on Instagram and show everyone what they're doing, or I'm going to label this mobile worker productivity. I kind of made that up, but that's decent. People are getting on buses in tech areas like Austin and San Francisco and Boston, and the companies actually providing, these large tech companies are actually providing transportation to work because traffic is so bad. Once they get on the bus, they have a robust internet connection that can support everybody. So you get on the bus, you crack open the laptop, you log in, and you're going to work. So you can get your first 2 hours in while on the bus, and then you're in the office for 4 or 5 hours, and then you turn around, you get back on the bus, and you can get another 2-3 hours in. So you're not wasting that commute time anymore. You're turning that dead commute time into productivity time, which is, it's better for productivity, it's better for family life, it's better for flexible scheduling. This is a trend that hasn't been going on that long, but it's going to keep going. And again, these buses need, obviously Wi-Fi cards aren't going to do it. They need something robust, reliable, something that can handle power from the bus. If you want to descend into the world of power a little bit, then that becomes DC power. DC power has a wider range of possibilities of coming in. It's what's called dirtier power. And you have to be able to translate that power into the router that we're providing, which means that router has to have advanced circuitry and a more robust electrical infrastructure, if you will, to take that power and not have power surges and not have power outages, and translate that down so it just keeps providing reliable internet connectivity. So this is more robust gear. This is not the gear that you put in an office on a wall. It costs about twice as much, and it has far more robust innards to make sure that it can it can hold up in these performance conditions. So that's mobile worker productivity. The other one I touched on in kind of my opening remarks, but mobile units for construction. If you're a land clearing site, or you're the company who comes out to do the excavation, or you're the company that comes out and does the civil engineering, you might be on site for 5 to 15 days. And in that time period, you have to download the blueprints, you have to give progress reports, you have to report up what you did, you might need to do pictures. There's all kinds of traffic and internet traffic information that has to flow back up to the project managers so that they can report on that they're on budget. There's accounting pieces, there's entire Venn diagrams showing on the project management software, did we get done today? What we stated we would get done today on plan. And so that's the same internet connection you need in your office, but now we're sitting on an undeveloped piece of land where they haven't brought wires yet. So cable internet's not there yet. We need wireless in order to get that internet connection to them. Sometimes it doesn't have an address yet. So you go to qualify for an address doesn't exist. Why doesn't it exist yet? Because they're just building the building now, right? So you can't qualify it. The cable company wants $50,000 to bring a wire to it. And oh, by the way, we need it in 3 weeks. We do this for construction companies all the time. There are construction plants with 15 different subcontractors on it and one general manager. And we'll have routers in all 15 trailers for 15 different subcontractors all doing their thing. The other thing about this is that the construction company themselves, once that job trailer is done, they can leave the router installed. They pick up the trailer, they move it to the next job site. The moment they get to the job site, they have internet. And so the entire qualification process of finding an internet connection at each site is now gone. I have a customer who's moved them. I think they have 45 routers with us. It's a big apartment builder in Florida in the Southeast. I think they moved them 150 times now. And the reason they went to us is they were tired of trying to find internet connectivity at each site. They were also tired of the internet connectivity they brought in getting cut because it's a construction site. People are digging holes. And they solved all of that 4 years ago with BroadSky. And they never worry about this anymore. They show up, they have internet, they leave the site, they go to the next site, they have internet. And then finally, oil and gas. Oil and gas has these same qualifications. You go out to a well, you do a startup, and there could be 20, 30, 40 people getting that well going, but it only takes a month. And then once they get it up and running, they leave, and then it becomes almost a robot well. They'll leave a monitoring station behind to monitor production, but other than that, the crew moves to the next site. Again, they need to bring the internet with them. And when you start talking about oil field, an oil field would apply to solar and wind as well. It has the same characteristics. The oil and sun and wind tend to be where the internet is not. Or if you think about it another way, you don't put solar towers up and you don't put wind turbines up downtown. You tend to put them in remote areas. Nobody has fast internet in remote areas. The cable companies can't cost justify it. And so they're looking at $50,000, $100,000 fiber builds that are going to take 6 months. Or you go with BroadSky and you can have internet next week. And the solution is pretty obvious if you compare the two. So those are the opportunities you want to think about, but they're just the ones that we've identified. If you bend your mind a little bit more around who do I know who's moving from site to site? Who do I know who needs internet for 3 weeks and then moves on and needs 3 weeks and then moves on, et cetera? That's the market that we're pointing to here. These are big projects that are on very tight timelines with big budgets. They have to have internet to make them run. And I can think of dozens of examples of how we've solved this for construction companies, but I think we're just scratching the surface. So it's a real opportunity, and we're a proven performer in this market. So mobile transportation, construction, oil and gas. I did the thing again where I explained the next slide. So this is just a reiteration. Take it with you internet or bring your own broadband are the two terms we're using here. And the one I didn't mention is security cameras. Security cameras are a little touchy because they use a lot of data. And so while we want security cameras to monitor, the $1 million of equipment we put on site, we also don't want them just streaming to the cloud where nobody's looking at it. The way to solve that is to record to a hard drive on site and then enable something called live look-in so that they can go to a live shot anytime they want. But most of the time it's recording to a hard drive on site. And then they can go in and either see a live shot or go in and review footage in case there's an incident. And that way we don't have a security camera streaming 100 gig a month to the cloud that nobody looks at. That's not profitable. to monitor. So that's the solution on security cameras. Live surveillance gets expensive. I'd shy away from that unless the live surveillance is very, very valuable to the end user. So mobile transportation use case, this is the one we touched on, but I think that there's more out there. When they get on the bus and they need productivity, these are big companies who are providing this, but I'm guessing that there's going to be smaller companies that are going to start stepping in and filling this need. So instead of arbitrarily Google or Apple or Facebook hiring and retaining these sort of services, there's going to be companies that step in and do this for, I will take you from this suburb where tech workers live to this technology campus area where technologies work. And so that's a market that if anyone is aware of it, I suspect will be emerging, because the bus companies are getting paid a fair amount of money to transport people. And the tech companies themselves, they want the productivity, but they also want the employee morale and employee retention. If they can give their employees 4 hours of their workday back, that's a massive employee retention tool. That helps them in recruiting, it helps them in retention, and it helps them with getting more work done without asking for more hours out of people's day. So if anyone knows of something like that, I suspect that that's going to happen in 2020, 2021. So mobile retail, I talked about this a little bit, but the trend line on this, if you look at the retail apocalypse, if you follow mall stocks, if you follow real estate investment trusts, people are not going to malls. A lot of chains are declaring bankruptcy right now. I think Forever 21 declared, and I thought I saw, there's another one that I saw on the news the other day. I can't remember right now. A very well-known brand name. Pier 1 maybe? Not sure. People aren't going to malls. But retailers still need to sell product. And so instead of waiting for people to get to the mall, they are taking the mall to the people. And so if you look at this Adidas display, that I will estimate that that box, if you will, that shoebox cost them $50,000 to $80,000, plus the cost of setting it up, plus the cost of tearing it down and taking it to the next one, plus the cost of the employees who are there, plus the impact that they're trying to have at whatever event that they're attending. If they don't have a reliable internet connection inside of that, that thing's not going to work, and all of that money is going to be wasted. So every major retailer in America is doing this, and then every startup brand who's trying to become a major retailer in America is doing this. The sponsorship is no longer a sign with a website address on it. They're bringing the product and the experience to where the people are, and none of this works properly without a reliable internet connection. We're not selling fireworks in the parking lot anymore. It's gone far beyond that. The other one I'll point to is just seasonal display. We've all been seeing these for years. Halloween pop-up, Christmas pop-up, Valentine's Day pop-up, fireworks pop-up. There are companies that do this continually all year long. And there's also infrastructure companies that do all of the logistics for this. Those companies are looking for a reliable internet connection that they can bring to every one of their events without having to order it every time. They just want it to work as soon as it turns on. So these are the recurring themes that keep coming out that we're looking for, and we're looking for people on this call to look for as well, because we know we can deliver the solution. And given a choice, how about we deliver it versus somebody else? So let's talk a little bit about the reliability and how we're going to deliver this technology and how we're going to deliver this reliable internet connection that I keep talking about. One of the challenges of wireless is that while the carriers will tell you that they have coverage everywhere, the carriers don't have coverage everywhere. They all have strong spots and they all have weak spots. And this will never change. There are just areas that they've chosen not to invest in, or they haven't had time to invest in, or they don't have the money to invest in. And those are dead spots. If you go on a carrier map, the dead spots do not show up. And then second, if you're on the move, you're actually on a bus, you could be going from a strong Verizon signal to a strong T-Mobile signal to a strong AT&T signal as you're moving. How do you know when you shift from, and how do you get ahead of that? We want to introduce the concept of fusion bonding here. And fusion bonding is something that's probably new It's definitely emerging. Fusion bonding is where you have multiple SIM cards in the same router, and all of those SIM cards are connected at the same time. As you move from a Verizon to a T-Mobile to an AT&T strong coverage area, they will shift internally to deliver more speed from that SIM. And so a 50 meg down internet connection could be pulling 48 meg from Verizon, and then a mile later be pulling 48 meg from T-Mobile, and then a mile later be pulling 48 meg from AT&T, and then the other two are just sort of filling in the gaps. The net result is you have the same speed the entire time. How it's being pulled down is not important to the end user. The Speed Fusion technology is doing that for you. And this is something that most or all of the people in our space do not have the ability to deliver. And it is something that BroadSky has been deploying in the field now for a year and a half. We are well versed in this technology. And I guess the larger theme I'll touch on there is, this is a pretty typical BroadSky story. This is all we do, and so we have to be good at it. And so we're not resting on technology that came out in 2016. The manufacturers come to us first. We grab it the second that they introduce it. We put it on the bench, we test it, we prove it out, and we figure out how to deploy it in the field. So we're always in front of the curve. And wireless is moving just as fast as every other technology in this industry. So resting on what happened in 2018, then there's plenty of money to be made in what came out in 2018. But right now we're talking about what came out in 2020. We know how to make this work. This is what we do. And we can make this work for your customer right now, not theoretically a year from now, right now. Different flavor of this is dual active SIMs. This, instead of connecting to 3 carriers at the same time, this is switching from carrier to carrier. You could be on a Verizon tower, the signal could fade out and you need to switch over to your other active SIM. So you switch over to the T-Mobile SIM and then back to the Verizon again. That's called active SIM or instant failover, however you want to call it. You're pulling from one carrier at a time, not bonding it, but you have the ability to get to more than one carrier. I won't drill too far into the granulars of why you'd pick one over the other. Have a conversation with your channel manager about that, about what technology makes the most sense. But either technology is available to you. And again, we know how to set it up. We know how to bill it. We know how to make it clean. This is the power of every wireless network in the country being delivered to your end user at all times in either context. So these are some of the technologies that are getting deployed and kind of what they look like. I'm going to go back to my concept of this is purpose-built equipment. So some of the objective standards for purpose-built equipment is some of the certifications that they've had. So shock and vibration resistance isn't just aren't just words. There's a standard for this. It's the EN 61373:2010 standard. What that means is that this is something that's actually been proven to test in the field that will handle X amount of vibration without rattling apart. I won't go into all of these, obviously, but one of the other ones that's a big one is called Class 1 Div 2. This is for oil field applications or anything that has combustibles or any kind of fumes in the air. This is has passed a regulatory standards that states that it doesn't give off spark and it doesn't shed excess EM energy or excess electric energy. So insurance companies and the federal government won't allow equipment onto an oil and gas site or any combustible site that doesn't meet this standard. You need to work with a vendor who knows this and who can just say, yep, this meets the standard, you can deploy this. This checks your insurance company boxes. If you go the other way, one, it stops working, and two, God forbid something happens, there's going to be an insurance problem, and there's going to be an OSHA problem, and there's going to be a regulatory problem. If the equipment brought on site didn't meet the standard and there was some sort of fire event, heads are going to roll in that instance. And so that's why you meet the standards up front instead of creating a problem down the road. Final thing I'll point out, these have heat sinks. Heat sink is we have these sitting in Texas in monitoring sheds. It's a tin shed in the plains of Texas, and it gets hot in there. So something that works in a 75-degree controlled environment is not going to work in 155 degrees in the West Texas sun. And we also have these deployed in the oil fields of North Dakota where it gets to 20, 25 below. We've had them running for 2-3 years. They work every day. So these are examples of, and I guess I touched on the DC power. They can also handle what's called dirty power. A lot of these remote sites are handled by solar. So it's a solar gatherer that goes into a battery that then discharges electricity and powers the router. That electric input has a far higher range, and it's dirtier is the term that people use, but you'll see the voltages going all over the place as these things gather and from the sun, and then goes to the battery, and then goes to the inverter, and then goes into the outlet. So you need upgraded circuitry inside the router to be able to handle that power. We've been at this now in the oil field for 4 years. We know it works out there. We have hundreds and hundreds of them that are working every day in oil, solar, wind. All of them sort of have the same characteristics. So sort of in summary, this is a different take on where business is, and we're always searching for a niche that we can specialize in. We're always looking for something we can become experts in. There's a lot of opportunity in being the second or third connection in an SD-WAN box, and we're very good at it, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about things that move. These are more difficult solutions to procure. This isn't something that everybody claims they know how to do. A lot of people just drop off when they hear it's moving. They can't do it, and we can. And so, we're looking for sort of a robust discussion and a chance to get at these emerging markets that aren't settled yet. The people who decide and invest some time in becoming experts at this, there's a long runway of companies that need this now and are going to need this over the next 10 years. And that's who we're looking to partner with and be a reliable supplier for. Okay, setting that aside for a second, we're going to channel partners. And if you're going to channel partners, we'd love to see you. So there's two things we're doing. One is we're demoing a lot of these things. Bandwidth aggregation, channel bonding, fast routers. We're also demoing our POTS replacement product, which is a subject for a different webinar, but it is a massive opportunity over the next 5 years. If you haven't bent your mind around POTS replacement, I would start. The copper plant in America is estimated at 35 million lines, and it's also estimated in the next 5 years, every one of those lines needs to be replaced for many different reasons. And then we're also hosting a cocktail reception, and you're all invited to that as well. It is a Tuesday at 3 p.m. in Vegas at Sugar King, and we'd love to see you. And we'll talk business, and then we'll tell jokes and slap each other on the back, and it'll be a good time. So if you're going to Vegas, 2 different really good opportunities to see technology and then maybe relax a little bit during the busy show. So keep that in mind. If you need to talk to somebody, we have a geographical distribution. Jim Miller's in the Northwest, Maureen Donovan's in the Southwest, I'm in the Upper Midwest, Kevin Brennan's in the Northeast, and Todd Hulsenbeck is in the Southeast. And so if you need geographic presence or you need someone to be close and talk about the local weather, local sports, we have someone for you. So please reach out to the person that makes the most sense to you, and we can talk opportunities. Okay, that concludes my prepared remarks. 35 minutes, that's right on time. We're gonna go to a Q&A period. Way to go, Tom. Clicked one too far. Okay, pardon me. I'm gonna open up the Q&A box. If you text it in on the Q&A box, I'll see it. And what I'll just do is I'll read it back so that everyone hears it. And then we'll do the best job we can to answer it. Bo Barker is on the call as well. Bo's our VP of Technology. And if we get into a more networking signal, ones and zeros type conversation, then Bo is standing able to answer those questions as well. And I've also, they come in on the chat as well. So I kind of toggle back and forth between the Q&A box and the chat box. And you can ask your question in either venue. Okay. So we'll get started. I have one question so far, but I'm hoping for more. John Farina asked, does your unit require some kind of power source? Yes, it does. So we can connect this either DC or AC. There is a DC power converter that can go right into the box. You can power it either off of solar, you can power it off of, if they have a generator on site, or you can power it off, if it's a vehicle, you can take it directly to the power block that's in vehicle. Or if they've already converted it to AC power, like the mobile health units are going to already have AC power in there to power all of their medical equipment, then you can just plug it into that. Okay, so I hope that answers that question, John. Next question is food trucks. Yeah, food trucks would be another excellent application for this. What's interesting about food trucks, if it's a one-person food truck operation, they tend to take their point of sale on Square. If that works for them, they're going to stick with it. But if volume starts to increase, or they have a multiple fleet, they're going to start to outgrow those Square swipes. They're a little bit slower, and so every transaction kind of slows down a little bit. And if you're trying to make all your money in 90 minutes, you can't be slowed down, even waiting 30 seconds for the Square to go through. So now you're talking about you need better latency, and you want to bring your own. There's just a lot of reasons why you need a faster internet connection with lower latency. Or if you're starting to grow up, and instead of a single proprietor with one food truck, you have a business that's running 20, 25, 30, 35 of them, and they're going to multiple venues throughout the day, you're really starting to graduate beyond Square at that point, particularly if you have any sort of inventory management that you're doing at the same time, or if you're trying to keep track of sales on some sort of real-time basis to see what's happening with the fleet that day. You're going to want to graduate to a mobile point of sale powered solution by BroadSky, that no matter where you go, you have coverage, and you don't have those delays because, oh, the internet's not working right now. Well, that's not good enough. We invested time and space in this opportunity, and now we're just sitting here. So we can't have that. So food trucks, as they emerge into multi-trucks in the field, yes, I would think that's an excellent opportunity. Vinay asked, what are good sources to look for mobile vendor prospects in a given zip code? I don't know, Vinay. That's an excellent question. When I was a field sales rep, I would take pictures of trucks going by all the time. Anything that was a transportation company was a prospect. In my mind, if you opened your mind to where are these prospects as you're going about your daily life, if you see one food truck and then you see another one, or you see a mobile healthcare unit, and there's generally not just one. Every one of those companies has these problems. I would take the picture, go to the internet, find the company, and suspect that they have intermittent connectivity problems that they would like to solve. John asks, this is a great question. How does this get implemented in hotels that require POTS line service for their elevators or fire panels for inspections which need connectivity? Great question. I brought up POTS and you asked about it, and now I'm going to answer it even though it wasn't the topic of the webinar. But yeah, so here's the deal on POTS, guys. It's elevators and fire alarms by regulation have to have a POTS line, and those regulations aren't going to change. But the POTS lines are going away, not tomorrow, but over the next 5 years. There is an inspection burden on these, and so it can't just be any old thing. The BroadSky POTS solution is certified in all 50 states for both elevator and fire. The two regulations are UL, Underwriter's Life, so you have to pass the insurance inspection, and then either the elevator inspector or the fire marshal. And a BroadSky solution will pass those inspections, and everyone will be happy and everyone's boxes are checked. Other solutions may not. And you don't want to be on the wrong side of a fire marshal inspection. They will pull your certificate of occupancy on that day, and they will not allow you to occupy that building until you come in compliance. They will also not allow you to open the doors until you have a POTS line that passes their inspection. So now we're talking millions or tens of millions of dollars when we're trying to move in and we don't have a fire alarm and everybody has to go home. So let's avoid that. Can we scroll down here? Doug asked, You mentioned 50 M bandwidth normal expectations, bonded versus dual active SIM bandwidth expectations, and then 5G question mark. Okay, great question. So if you're blending, if you're in a metro area and you're pulling from 3 different carriers all at the same time, 50 meg is a pretty decent expectation. The carriers can provide that. It's just that they can't provide it everywhere. And so as you move from block to block, the AT&T tower might not be there for you anymore, or you switch towers and now you've gone to the next tower. Maybe that tower doesn't have the speed, but the T-Mobile tower does. And so you do end up with that smooth expectation and that sort of smooth experience and performance as you move down your route, as you switch from tower to tower. So yeah, Doug, I'd say 50 meg is a realistic expectation. Bo's been doing speed tests all over the country as he goes. We've done speed tests where we get over 100. We're not promising 100 because that gets to the upper end, but it's trending in that direction. We're seeing speed tests of 200, 300 meg down in ideal conditions, but let's focus on that 50. 50 is a good number. And then you asked about 5G. Again, another topic for another, it's an emerging topic and we could talk about it forever. 5G classically means millimeter wave technology. This is true 5G where you're going to be able to get a 1 gig wireless download, and that speed is available in about 0.2% of the country right now. There is anywhere from 100 to 500,000 towers that are going to need to be built to deliver that. It's going to be in the urban core. It's never going to extend to the plains of North Dakota. There's 2 reasons for that. 1, it's an enormous amount of money to put a tower up, and 2, these signals only travel half a mile. So millimeter wave is incredibly fast, but it doesn't propagate well, and it also doesn't penetrate buildings well. And so you're going to need a massive mesh network built in order to deliver true millimeter wave 5G. What the carriers are doing is they're repurposing spectrum in the normal LTE range, if you will, the range that we're in right now. And then they're blending the signals together and they're labeling it sort of 5G. AT&T calls it 5GE. There's different words coming out. But what they're doing is this same technology we're talking about. They're bonding frequencies together to deliver more speed. And this is technology we have on the bench right now. We've deployed it in the field right now. We're getting that 5G, version A performance in the field right now. So we're well aware of the actual performance curve, and we're right at the front of it. And as it continues to get faster, we will be right at the front of it. We'll always be at the front of the performance curve at Broadcom. John asked, E911 calls, will they identify the location they're in? Yes, they will. This is E911 compliant. And then Bob Reno asked, construction job site security with monitoring. Yeah, I talked about that a little bit. Construction sites definitely want to put cameras up to monitor their rolling stock. And so absolutely, it'll work. They definitely want to record to a hard drive on site. They don't want to be streaming to the cloud 24 hours a day. Nobody's looking at it, and it's just too expensive. So the way to do this is record to a hard drive on site and then enable live look-in. And live look-in is you can go to a live view at any time. It's just a click of a button. And then you can also go in and review your tapes. And so a hard drive will generally record, I said tapes. A hard drive will generally record 30 days. You can put a 1 terabyte hard drive out there for $200, and all the security cameras will just record to it. And you have a 30-day, sort of rolling average of what happened in the last 30 days for any sort of incident reporting. So it works very well for that. You just don't want live stream to the cloud. It is not profitable, and they'll turn it off. So Doug asks, upload expectations bonded versus dual. Great question. All the bonding is happening on the download, Doug. They are not bonding upload. They're bonding download. Typical internet, everybody's focusing on download speeds. Having said that, if you are bonding, well, you know what? Let me say that a different way. Sorry. If you're bonding the up, you will bond the up, but you're starting from a slower speed point. So if I bond 4 40 meg circuits down, I could get theoretical 120 to 160 because there's some overhead there. Upload doesn't run as fast. And so if I bond 4 upload channels that are 8 to 15, I'm looking at theoretical 40 to 60. So I misspoke. We can bond the upload. It just doesn't run as fast. But for heavy upload applications, let's talk about that, because you can bond 4 on the up. It just, you're starting with 4 slower frequencies and then bonding them together. Bo, why don't you make me sound smarter on that upload signal and give a better answer than I just gave, if that's possible. Well, I know you can give a better answer.
You were spot on, Tom. Yeah.
Okay, did I say it right?
You did. Yeah, that's right. So if we had, I think some of the average numbers we're seeing are 5 to 10 from the carriers, and in some areas and some carriers, we're seeing in those 20 to 25 ranges. Very few carriers on single carrier bonded LTE channels are we seeing, 40 plus on the upload links. But when we do bond that and force all the traffic to the concentrator, you have those 4 channels open, and so you do get that channel bonding on the uplink side as well. And Tom said it perfectly. That download versus upload bandwidth, just like in terrestrial telecom, we typically see that as being lower. Obviously the carriers are working on that as the backhauls improve. I was just reading an article today. AT&T strung some fiber between Dallas and Atlanta, Georgia at 400 gigabits per second. So they're really starting to make those improvements, and we may see that as 5G technologies emerge more onto the market.
Okay, better answer. Thank you, Bo. Okay, so I see 3 questions on the chat side. So I'll answer those. Jeff Stewart asked, carrier commitments, month to month, 2-year. So carrier commitments, so to be clear, thank you for asking, Jeff. So to be clear, this entire solution is delivered by BroadSky, including the billing responsibility. So you don't buy equipment and you don't get a contract from the carrier. We're in the middle of that. And so we're the supplier for all of this. So you'll never see a bill from AT&T and you'll never see a bill from Cradlepoint or Peplink. That's all bundled in. So I think I answered that. And then can you deploy this on a month to month? Absolutely. There's the NRCs on month to month are higher, but it's a classic solution for a pop-up. What I see on the biz dev side on this is someone will deploy it month to month to solve one problem one time. And then we'll talk to them and say, is this a recurring problem for you? And they'll say, well, yeah, this happens all the time. And say, well, why don't we move this router to the next site? And then why don't we move it to the next site and the next site and the next site and the next site? It'll work every time. And therefore, we don't have to enter into a month-to-month agreement with higher NRCs. Let's enter into a 3-year agreement that has no NRCs, and the price point's a little better. And then you have a solution for the next 3 years, not a solution for next weekend. And that's the business development track I've seen a dozen times. I mentioned a construction company that I started working with 4 years ago. That's how we started. We needed a job site somewhere in Florida. We solved it. And then it went from there. So why don't you take it to the next site? Can I do that? Sure, you can do that. And they did it for that router, and then they did it for 45 more. So contextually, they bill $15,000 a month with BroadSky. That touches on a larger idea I want to get across to everyone on this call. This is not a cute $75 a month. I can't even tell that I'm getting a commission check for this product. There's real money attached to this. BroadSky has multiple customers billing $50,000 a month plus. And those solutions all started by solving a need. And then the solution to that need got replicated across the entire plant. And then a year later, they can't imagine how they did it without us. So every deal is a trial. Every deal is an opportunity. Every deal tends to lead to something. And we're perfectly happy to solve it for one customer, one time for 1 month. We'll do that. We do that a lot. But people tend to run into the same problems because that's their business. And once we smooth it out, 3 to 6 months later, they just move everything over to us. And we see that all the time, all the time. Bob asked security, question mark, job site, question mark, and then with call center monitoring. So I think I talked about the security, Bob. If you're talking about the cameras, I've touched on that twice, so I'm going to let that one go. And then job site, we've talked about that a fair amount. This is a fantastic job site application, or bring the internet to the job site and know it's going to be there on the day you open the doors. We did a little study. I think it's been a year now, with 16 or 17% of BroadSky revenues are construction related. It was a little startling to us. Our three biggest business segments, if you just want to think this way, are construction of some kind, or bring your own broadband of some kind, that category. And then power, which would be oil, gas, solar, wind, and including pipeline. Pipeline has massive monitoring needs. If you have a pipeline company, you should be talking to them. And then backup, classic backup, where we place the router and we provide a reliable internet connection at every site that works the same everywhere and it shows up on one bill. Those are our three biggest categories. That's how you make money with BroadSky. Pick one, pick all three, or get really excited about POTS, because we think that that's going to break into the top, certainly 5 this year and next year. I wouldn't be surprised if it's number 1 in 3 years, but we'll see. All right, so Jeff asked BroadSky marketing collateral and a copy of the slide deck or a replay. Yeah, thanks for asking. So everyone on this webinar, and thank you again for attending, will get a copy of this slide deck. And then we will post this to the YouTube /BroadSky. Right, Mary? The YouTube channel BroadSky. It's YouTube /BroadSky. This webinar will be on there, and every webinar we've ever done is on there. So as fascinating as this is every month, you could watch every one of them over the last 2 years. And I know that's very exciting. And since Mandalorian isn't coming up with new episodes yet, we have some time. So if you have a chance, we've covered every business segment that we do. It's all on there, and it's all usable by yourself. The other marketing tool that's available to you is we have a drip campaign that's focused on backup that we'd be happy to provide for you. You can co-brand it. The content's already done. Mary Curry, our marketing director, put it together. It's fantastic. And it's a scheduled drip campaign that you can put your logo on and send to your customer base, that just on a schedule, and inviting them to talk about backup applications to the cloud to ensure that they can always get to their applications no matter what. We're well aware that the main business drivers in the channel are getting people to the cloud and getting the connectivity to the cloud that ensures that they can get to those applications. Our contention is, our strategic sort of setting is, one of those connections should be wireless, because you cannot cut a wireless connection and you cannot flood a wireless connection. So you can build in all the network diversity you want, but backhoes don't discriminate between wires. Cut one, cut all, and floods do the same. And on that day, you either have a wireless connection and they're continuing to run their business, or you do not. And unfortunately, on the day that you do not, it's either the IT director's problem, or it's the person who helped the IT director set up their network's problem, AKA you. And so let's take out the insurance policy now, because on the day of the cut, everyone is helpless and everyone is angry. And so now is the time to solve that. It also helps sell these cloud applications, and it makes them install more quickly. Topic for another webinar, go to BroadSky /YouTube. We've talked about it at length. Okay, next question. When prospecting for festival venues, do you focus on the venue sponsor or the individual venue participants? I've seen that go both ways. There's probably 3 categories for this. One, there's logistics setup companies who handle this for them. Site prep, we're taking care of all of it. There's companies that run festivals all across the country. So if you think about the people who put channel partners on, that's not their only event of the year. That CP Expo, I think is the name of that company, but they're running technology expos all year long. They have a team that sets them up. By the same token, there's companies who organize festivals. They organize the festival, and they organize the sponsors, and they organize who's going to be there, and they organize the entertainment and the food and the et cetera, et cetera. They need internet at that field for 20,000 people for 4 days. And then they leave. they have the same problem over and over and over again. So they'd be an outstanding prospect. And then of course, the individual people who have a presence at these, I'll just give you one example. We set up internet for a company that sells sunglasses who went to a motocross rally, and there was 20,000 people there, and they sold 2,500 pairs of sunglasses over a 3-day period. And they called me 3 days beforehand, and they needed internet. And so we provided it for them. And then they sold a bunch of sunglasses. So these prospects are everywhere. Anybody who's moving and selling is a prospect. Okay, and then Mary put up the website link. It's www.youtube.com/Broadsky Networks. All of our content is there, and it's helpful. It's helpful. Okay. I don't see any other questions on either the Q&A box or the chat box. And we're at 55 minutes, so that sort of makes sense to me. Okay. Maureen, did I miss anything? Do you want to add anything? Do you want to invite people to the cocktail party again?
You did a fantastic job, Tom. I don't know if there's anything to add. Yeah, I really hope to see you all in Channel Partner Show in Vegas. The Sugarcane venue that we have for the happy hour on Tuesday is right before the show floor opens. It's on the way, so it's perfect. But we need RSVP, so please contact one of your channel managers. We can get you a link, or just ask them and we can sign you up. And then the live demo lab is going to be great. We have a hospitality suite with everything set up. Our VP of Tech, our Director of IT, and all the channel managers will be there. Cocktails, refreshments, and then a lot of great tech. So please schedule something there. Love to see you for 10-15 minutes if you can spare it. So that'd be great. And no, unless anybody's driving and doesn't have access to chat and wants to hit *6, I think that's a wrap. Appreciate everybody joining.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for investing an hour with Broadsky in your busy lives. And we're going to do this again next March. And hopefully we will see you in sunny Las Vegas.